This is Yair Davidiy speaking to you from the land of Israel. Today we're about to discuss the USA. The USA, the United States of America, and its identity with the Israelite Tribe of Manasseh. The Israelite Tribe of Manasseh. Manasseh was the son of Joseph. Joseph had two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh. We identify Ephraim with Britain and its offshoots, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa, and the USA with Manasseh. These are part of the lost 10 tribes of Israel. We had 12 tribes of Israel originally, 12 tribes of Israel on the land of Israel, 12 tribes of Israel came out of Egypt. These 12 tribes were in the land of Israel. They were first under the King Saul from the tribe of Benjamin, then under King David from the tribe of Judah. After David came Solomon, who built the temple in Jerusalem. After Solomon came Rehoboam. In the time of Rehoboam, 10 of the northern tribes separated and created their own kingdom under Jeroboam. In the north, their own kingdom of Israel, and this kingdom, after a good while, was conquered by the Assyrians, and all of its inhabitants taken to exile, and they disappeared. But according to biblical prophecy, they remained as they were, and historically we have evidence of this. They remained in their places of exile as coherent, cohesive entities, polities, even though they had forgotten their origins. It's not as strange as it seemed, because numerous other peoples have done the same. At all events, they forgot who they were. And it was predicted that that is what they would do. They had left the God of Israel, they left the religion of Israel, and they adopted other religions, other tongues, other cultures. But they remained physically as they were, and they moved. And we find them recoalescing and reconverging in Western Europe, amongst West European nations. In Finland, in Sweden, in Norway, in Denmark, the Netherlands, Belgium, France, Switzerland, also in the British Isles, in Scotland, England, Wales, Ireland, and Northern Ireland, and all those regions and the peoples who developed from them overseas. All of those peoples have within them a group of peoples, a group of citizens, who may in some cases be the majority of the people concerned. At all events, they are an influential minority. They're an important segment of the peoples concerned, and they help determine the national characteristics of the countries with whom they dwelt. And this enables us to identify certain countries as belong predominantly to certain Israelite tribes, in addition to saying that the Israelites comprise a good portion of their ancestry. And for this, for all kinds of reasons, for all kinds of proofs, we have identifying the USA as Manasseh, even though the people of the USA came from all over, the world. And the Americans are a mixture of peoples. We find a certain predominance of elements from Manasseh within the USA, and the USA has the characteristics of the Israelite tribe of Manasseh. Now, as we are going to bring proof of this, beforehand we should give caveats, that is exceptions or reservations to what we're about to say, so that it should be clear from the very beginning that no one should make any mistake. So we're not saying that everyone in the USA is an Israelite. Israelites, people of Israelite descent, may or may not be a majority of the population. They are, at all events, a significant portion of it. That is the first point. We don't actually know what proportion of Americans are from Israel, but we understand that it is a substantial element within the USA. So exactly what percentage or what degree Israelites are there is another story. There are Israelites there, and Israelites are dominant within the USA, and that is what we need to know for the present. And in addition to that, the second point is that members of all the Israelite tribes are present in the USA, in America. That is, not only does America comprise or contain within its borders a good number of descendants of Israel, but the Israelites who are there belong to all all of the 12 tribes of Israel, not just from one particular tribe. But within those Israelites who were there, the tribes of Joseph, that is Ephraim, are in turn predominant. They determine the characteristics of the USA. It may be that within the USA, the descendants of Ephraim, Joseph had two sons, Ephraim and Manasseh, both of whom became full-fledged tribes in own right. It may be that within the USA, there are certain indications that within the USA, descendants of Ephraim are more numerous, numerically, than descendants of Manasseh. Nevertheless, Manasseh gave its characteristics to the USA more than Ephraim did. Whereas we find Ephraim coming to expression amongst the British and the British offshoots. Now we consider the USA to be Manasseh for numerous reasons. Go through them quickly and then we'll get down to what we're about to speak about. In this talk we're about to speak about, or intend to speak about, rabbinical proofs from rabbinical writings of Rabbis in our time, who were writing not concerning the identification of America with the USA. They were writing concerning a biblical analysis of the characteristics of Manasseh as one of the tribes of Israel. But we apply these characteristics to the known characteristics of the US, and we find that they are exactly the same. So this helps converge with our findings, and this confirms our understanding that the USA is Manasseh. So why do we think at all that the USA is Manasseh? So there are quite a few reasons. Here are a few of them. The USA fulfills the promises given to the sons of Joseph, Ephraim and Manasseh. So that in itself is important. The USA fulfills the characteristics or the promises given to Joseph, that is Ephraim and Manasseh. The name America is derived from a Latin medieval transmutation of a Hebrew word, Ha-Machiri. Ha-Machiri means the sons of Machir. Machir was the firstborn son of Manasseh, and we were shown elsewhere that this name became used in the Middle Ages as a given name, because as a diminutive, as a nickname, one could say, for someone. Ha-Machiri became a nickname in Hebrew for someone called the Machir. Even though originally Ha-Machiri in the Bible means the sons of Machir, it was as languages go, Jews started using it as a nickname for someone called Machir. And we had someone called Machir in southern France, who was an important person, and he was a ruler of the area, and because of him the name became popular amongst the local Gentile population as well as the Jewish one. But when Ha-Machiri is difficult to pronounce for people not used to Hebrew, so it was written as America or America. And so the name became popular in the region. It was given to Amerigo Vespucci. Amerigo Vespucci gave his name to America. But so we get it so that indirectly America received its name after the Hebrew expression Ha-Machiri, meaning sons of Machir, Machir being the firstborn son of Manasseh. Machir also in Hebrew connotes selling or the principle of capitalism, and America is the foremost capitalist nation on earth. So this is important. This is important, and other proofs. So the name Manasseh, we identify the USA with the name Manasseh. So the name Manasseh in Hebrew, according to Rabbi Shimshon Raphael Hirsch, explaining the meaning of the name, so he in effect says that Manasseh means responsible representation. Responsible representation, he gets this from comparing the root of the word to other words, to names for someone who lends money to someone else, but still retains a claim on it. For women who have men represent them, but they still want the men to be responsible to them, and for other places where he finds the root of this name, it always represents something which is responsible to something else, that in effect embodies the principle of responsible representation. That is the name Manasseh. That is what the meaning of the name Manasseh. And this is what gave rise to America. The principle of responsible representation is what led to the American Revolution against England, the American War of Independence against Britain, and it is a foundational principle of the US Constitution. The Constitution of America is very important to Americans. It is much more important than the constitutions of other countries are to their citizens. For an American to say something is not constitutional, it's as if you broke the Ten Commandments, or worse even. Like, I'm not joking, you can even see it in political commentary. Americans take the Constitution very, very seriously because it represents an important fundamental aspect of their national personality. And so America, from this point of view, is Manasseh. We also have the notion or the understanding that a good portion of the early settlers of America, they came from Britain, they came from Ireland and Scotland and the Western England, and they came from areas, specific areas within that the British Isles had a overwhelming predominance amongst the early settlers, mainly in the north and west, and we find that these settlers from these specific areas of Britain came from regions, according to his names and other indications, who pertain to Manasseh. We have been enabled to identify clans and tribes and ancient peoples who settled in Britain and settled in Western Europe, to identify them through comparing the names, through comparing their characteristics with Hebrew tribes, with clan groups within the Hebrew tribes. We find patterns, recurring patterns that help confirm understanding. So we have found within Britain areas where Manasseh was apparently predominant, and from those areas came a good portion of the early settlers of America. So in that sense, the early settlers of America had a good number of Manasseh amongst them. Another point is that the Great Seal of America, the Great Seal of the USA, with a pyramid. The pyramid is a picture of Joseph, representing Egypt, and according to the Midrash, a picture representing Egypt was the symbol of Joseph, and also the all-seeing eye. The all-seeing eye is a picture of divine providence, which is mentioned in the blessing, in the Hebrew version, in the Hebrew original of the blessings to Joseph. We have an all-seeing eye mentioned, and this is found on the Great Seal, and also the number 13, which is repeated in the symbolism within the Great Seal, the 13 arrows, the 13 bars, the 13, the olive branch with the 13 berries and 13 leaves, and number 13 is repeated, the 13 stars, we can say, because originally there were 13 colonies who helped create what became the USA, and that 2 important 13 colonies, and in effect, Manasseh was the 13th tribe. Manasseh was the 13th tribe, and number 13 was important to America as found on the Great Seal. Another point is that Rabbi Shimi Michael Ostraker, he noted that the name Manasseh in Hebrew, Manasseh is connected to the word meaning shani, or second, that Manasseh comes after Ephraim, and the USA became great after Ephraim. Also, we see in the blessing given to Ephraim and Manasseh, that first Ephraim would be predominant. First, Ephraim would become a great nation, and then Manasseh would become a great nation after Ephraim. So, and that is what happened. First, there was a Great Britain and its empire, and then America came afterwards, followed on in its footsteps. Another point is that this word, this same root, means not only to come second, it also connotes to change, to revolutionize, to overturn. And this fits our identification of the USA with Manasseh. The Americans rebelled, they asserted their independence, had a revolution. And so too, we have Rabbi Schlanger, Rabbi Raphael Menachem Schlanger. he also wrote about the characteristics of Manasseh, and he noted that there was in the Bible one has Jehu, the son of Nimshi, or the son of Yehoshaphat, son of Nimshi, Jehu, son of Nimshi, and he is mentioned in the second books of Kings, chapter 9, and Jehu was a captain was a commander, a general, a leading general in the forces of Israel, fighting against the enemy, fighting against Aram. The young man, the servant of the prophet, one of the sons of the prophets, is referred to as one of the sons of the prophets. In those days you had like a kind of yeshiva, a kind of a group of young men who would attach themselves to one of the prophets, or to several of the prophets, or a great number of prophets in those times, and the young men would attach themselves to the prophets, and they would learn together, and they would become apprentices, as if to say, to the prophets, and eventually graduate to become prophets. So the prophet Elisha sent one of these servants of the prophets, one of these sons of the prophets, as an emissary to Jehu, and he came unto Jehu, the son of Yehoshaphat, Jehu, the son of Yehoshaphat, the son of Nimshi. That was what he is called. And these names are important. Jehu, the son of Yehoshaphat, the son of Nimshi. We're told in 2 Kings 9, so the young man, the servant of the prophet, went to Ramoth Gilead. When he arrived, behold, the commander of the army, that is Jehu, was sitting. So behold, the commander of the army was sitting, and he said, I have a word for you, commander. And Jehu said, for which one of us? And he said, for you, commander. He then got up and went into the house, and the prophet's servant poured oil of anointment on his head, and said to him, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. I have anointed you king over the people of the Lord, over Israel. So Yair, after that, was commanded to extirpate, to wipe out the house of Ahab from the tribe of Ephraim. He was then ruling over Israel to make himself king. Yair came from Manasseh, and he was commanded to make himself king, wipe out the previous ruling house of Ahab, and make himself king. And at that time, Ahab was dead, but his son Joram, from his successor, was ruling in the city of Israel, and so Jehu took his army and went there to Israel, and he was driving in a chariot, and when the watchman on the city walls saw the chariot of Jehu approaching, he said, the driving, that is the way the chariot is being managed, the driving is like the driving of Jehu, the son of Nimshi. Jehu is referred to as Jehu, the son of Nimshi, even though Nimshi, technically speaking, was his grandfather. Jehu, the son of Nimshi, for he drives furiously, he says. And the driving is like the driving of Jehu, the son of Nimshi, for he drives furiously. After that, Jehu kills the king and all his household. Jehu then wiped out all the pagan priests who worship Baal. Now, the USA, getting back to the USA, we'll see the significance and the relevance in a minute. Jehu has a significance for us. The USA emerged from Britain. The original settlers, the original populace of the USA were from Britain. They were settlers who rebelled. They had a war of independence and they declared themselves independent. But they had come from Britain. But they were quite different. They were quite different in character, quite different in outlook. And they created their own country, which was quite different. And they grew up and they developed to become a great country. And they were, as if to say, laid themselves on the basis of Britain. Britain had helped establish the colonies. And also, even after the War of Independence, Britain helped defend them, helped protect them, in effect, prevented other nations from interfering in what they were doing, and allowed them to grow up and become a great nation, to some degree, at least. And so, you could say that America succeeded Britain. It followed on over Britain, and there's a seamless emergence of the USA becoming the greatest country on earth, after the British Empire, succeeding the British Empire, following on to the art with the British Empire without fiction, letting the British let them do it, and didn't have much choice, but they let them do it, And America is similar to Britain. It has international bases like Britain had, often in the same places that Britain had. It has similar policies in foreign affairs and military matters, and a similar outlook on life. America is a successor to Britain from that point of view. The feature of Americanism is of being an American is to upgrade things, constantly upgrade, change, improve, renew. Revolutionize previous concepts. So these characteristics, these traits, are those of Manasseh. They're traits of changing from the same word, coming second, shanim, also in Hebrew means to change, to revolutionize, to overturn. This is what America does. And this is also reflected in the name of Nimshi. Nimshi, the Jehu, the son of Nimshi, actually the grandson of Nimshi, was referred to as the son of Nimshi. The word Nimshi, as Rabbi Schlanger points out, Nimshi has the letters meaning Manasseh, meaning someone from the tribe of Manasseh. And Yair was from the tribe of Manasseh, and this is even reflected in his name. And it's also aspects of his behavior show where he came from. He was from the tribe of Manasseh. He was also described as driving furiously, with fury, 2 Kings 9:20. The way he was driving was described, it's translated as with fury in Hebrew. It says, "Bishigaon," in other words, with madness, like a crazy person, but also having aspects of innovation, of doing something new, something out of the box. This is something that Americans have. This is an aspect of Manasseh. It was from the beginning. And the rabbis who pointed this out didn't have America in mind. They didn't have what we're teaching in mind. They had no idea of it, I assume. They were just analysing the Hebrew text, the Hebrew words, as an exercise in Bible study. But it applies to us. This even helps prove our case because it confirms our findings that the USA has aspects of Manasseh, and the USA for biblical terms is Manasseh. Rabbi Schlanger also points out that the appointment of Jehu involved appointing someone in place of the previous king. Jehu was to become king in place of the previous king, but he was from Manasseh, whereas the previous king was from Ephraim, and he points out that leaders from Manasseh, including Gideon was also from Manasseh, he had been a previous ruler, they were appointed for specific reasons, for specific tasks. Yair was appointed king in order to wipe out the house of Ahab, and also to wipe out paganism. And this is an aspect of the, as the Rabbi Schlanger points out, of Manasseh, that their kings are not absolute monarchs as those from the tribe of Ephraim are, the tribe of Asa. They are rulers with specific curtailed jurisdiction. They are just similar to the idea of a president. The president in the American Constitution, as it was originally envisaged, is someone like a king, who would be like a king compared to European kings. And you would have great power, but it would be for a limited period of time, and it would be circumscribed. It would be within defined parameters. It would not be an absolute ruler. And these are rulers, the type of ruler that Manasseh would appoint for himself in the Bible. Is the same thing. Also, the very term used, it says the young man, the son of the prophet, when he came to Jehu, he called him, "I have a word for you, commander." And Jehu said, "For which one of us?" And he said, "For you, commander." He says, "For you, commander." Now the word used for commander in Hebrew here in this passage is ha-sa, literally ha-prince, ha-sa, ha-ruler, the ruler. So it is an unusual Hebraic form, and the best translation, or a very approximate translation, would be the same as Mr. President. Mr. President is how you refer to, or how the President of the USA is referred to, Mr. President. Ha-sa. It is, in other words, you are the ruler, but you are the president, and this is how Jehu was referred to. We have these points about these attributes of Manasseh being pertinent to America, and America, according to tradition, represents the descendants of Joseph, descendants of Manasseh, from Manasseh, or a portion of Manasseh, according to tradition, will come the future redeemers, those who will lead the eventual reunification and redemption of the Israelite nation of the 10 tribes will come from Manasseh. We also should point out that the Americans are referred to as Yank. Yankee is a name given to America. Within America, Yank means someone from the north as distinct from someone from the south of the USA. But as far as people overseas are concerned, Americans are generally referred to Yankees, the word Yank, and no one knows where it originally came from. But it is the same as a nickname for Jacob in Yiddish and in Hebrew. Yankov, Yank. Yank is short for Yaakov. It's another way of saying Yaakov. Yank means Yaakov. And so, in this sense, Yankee means Yaakov. Americans are nicknamed after Yaakov. We had Abraham, the patriarchs of the Israelite nation, Abraham, Isaac, and Yaakov. Yaakov was renamed Israel. The 12 sons of Israel are the 12 tribes of Israel. Israel is another name for Yaakov. Jacob, the father of Joseph, called Joseph to him with his 2 sons before he died, and he blessed them. He blessed Ephraim and Manasseh. He blessed them, and he placed Ephraim before Manasseh. And he placed him in such a way that Ephraim would be great before Manasseh, that Manasseh would become after Ephraim, as America came after the Britain. He gave the blessing to the 2 sons. And Rabbi Fisher Ma'el, also using the commentary B'nai Yisachar, which was about 300 years ago. Rabbi Fisher Ma'el is alive today. He lived for a very long time, but he also used a previous commentary and putting it together with his own ideas. He shows that Manasseh was connected to Yaakov, and whereas Ephraim was connected to Joseph. We had Yaakov was the father of Joseph, Joseph was the father of Ephraim and Manasseh, but Manasseh is connected more to Yaakov, the father of Joseph, whereas Ephraim is connected more to Joseph. So we have a special connection between Yaakov and Manasseh. And the USA are nicknamed Yankee, meaning Yaakov, the one they have a special connection to. May the Lord God of Israel bless you. Thank you.